Hello, this is Archie Dunlop with Talking Astrology with Archie on Tuesday, March the 21st, 2023. Apologies for not getting this channel together. I'm just doing videos every day and I'm not really thinking too hard about what they look like. I'm supposed to be getting a camera soon, but I haven't really got it together. And it's all pretty primitive. So my apologies. Now, let's talk a bit about Russia. Now, astrologically, a couple of years ago, there was a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in the first degree of Aquarius, and Pluto is about to go into Aquarius. And Aquarius traditionally is a sign that does have a strong connection with Russia. So what does this all mean? I think that it means that Russia is on the up. I wrote an article on my blog a couple of years ago saying that it is all about Russia. You know, there may be some moments where it seems that Russia is about to collapse, that it's going to lose some battle, but overall, Russia is the future. That's the way it is. Apologies for that. The West is done for. I will go into detail about this in a later YouTube video, but it's pretty clear that Russia is the place to be. This isn't just some short-term trend. This is a trend lasting decades, maybe even centuries. Which brings me on to the chart of the day, which is Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister. And today is his 73rd birthday. And I will be looking at his horoscope. And his horoscope does illustrate the problem with cusps, because we don't actually know if Sergei Lavrov is an Aries or a Pisces. He's probably an Aries. If he was born after 7:35 a.m., he's an Aries. If he was born before, he'd be a Pisces. So on the balance of probabilities, he is an Aries, but we can't be sure about that. Now, as far as the stars are concerned, there is actually a new moon today, and that's really what I'm going to be focusing on. We've got a new moon in Aries, and let's have a look at what that chart actually looks like. So here we go. Here is the chart. So there's a lot of Aries there. There's the Sun-Moon conjunction, definition of a new moon. There's Mercury in Aries. We've also got Jupiter in Aries. So today we've got a ton of stuff in Aries. And when you've got all that going on in Aries, it's a time to make things happen. Aries is a really dynamic sign. It's about acting first, thinking later. You do have to think a little, because you don't want to act first and destroy yourself. But by and large, the thing to do is to take the initiative, and not hold back. I mean, after all, particularly if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, it's the spring. And this new moon, though, I should remind you that in astrology, new moons are about starting things, but it's about starting things in secret. So yes, by all means, if you've got some big plan, put it into action, all things being equal. But don't feel that you have to tell the whole world about it. Sometimes the best way to start things is to just do it and not actually to talk about it. Having said that, Mercury is in Aries today, so a lot of us are gonna want to tell the world what's on our mind, and not mince our words. This new moon here, this chart here is the new moon set for London. So the quality of a new moon will change depending on what country you're in. So in terms of London, you can see that there's a lot of planets here on the western side of the chart in the 7th house. And I think I would see this in terms of Britain. I think there's going to be a focus on Britain's enemies. I think Britain's enemies are starting to come out of the woodwork. And I think this is also since yesterday's Spring Equinox. I mean, Britain has really messed things up, as we know. Britain has got involved in this Ukraine war. It really has shown itself to be, to be honest, a pretty disgusting country with its attitude to foreign affairs. Now, I think that Britain seems to be, I don't know, it's reliving its colonial heritage, this paranoia about Russia. If you've read Kipling's Kim, that was a 19th century thing, talking about Russian agents in India at the end of the 19th century, and we seem to have gone back to that. So, yeah, Britain is a bit of a disaster, and we can see that its enemies are coming out of a woodwork. So, I suppose if you're British, you have to be sad because it's a time of national decline. Though this new moon is, if you're in France, you get a similar position, and the French have to deal with the fact that they aren't what they were. This new moon is important for another reason, because it comes just after the spring equinox. So when you get a new moon on one day and the day before is a spring equinox, this is a sign that things are changing fast in general. Big changes, and we need to accept that. So be aware of that. One thing about this chart of a new moon, you'll notice that there's very few planets in water signs. There's only Saturn in water signs, so it's not Saturn in Pisces. So it's not a very emotional time. It's not a time to be too sentimental. If we are sentimental, I think that we are going to lose our power, and we're not going to be very effective. So we have to make up our mind what we want to do, and not apologize for it. If you are a sun sign astrologer and you want to know, what's going to happen to Aries, what's going to happen to Taurus. I mean, one reason I haven't in my videos gone through the signs and said what's going to happen to each sign is, well, it's a lot of work to go through every sign. I could have 12 videos every day and tell you how each sign is going to be affected by it. Of course, if you are an Aries, if you've got a birthday now, this build-up in Aries is going to make it a very dynamic time for you. So if Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, is an Aries, we don't know for sure, then this new moon in Aries is going to be very important for him. It's going to perhaps launch him in a new direction. It's time for him to change his, perhaps change some aspect of his diplomatic maneuvering. So at this stage, I should probably look at his chart. Now, Lavrov, we need to remember, is a bit of a superstar, actually, on the diplomatic circuit. You have all these American non-entities trying to run their diplomatic, their foreign policy and their diplomatic policy. These people are just not in the same league as Lavrov. People want to meet Lavrov. Lavrov is an important person. And I think to an extent this is reflected in his chart, but we do have to remember he's born on the cusp. We don't know whether his sun is in Aries or Pisces. Look at his moon as well. His moon at this is actually set for 7:40 a.m. So if we if we go for the midday chart, let's just quickly change that, because we haven't a clue what time he was born. So if I change his chart to noon, we see his moon is at 0 Aries. Sorry, 0 Taurus. So he could have moon in Taurus. He could have moon in Aries. His sun could be in Aries, could be in Pisces. So that makes it very difficult to say anything definite about him. But what we can say is that he does have planets very close to the Aries point. So, you can see here he's got the sun around 0 Aries. Look at his Uranus. His Uranus is around 0 Cancer. Actually, it's 1 Cancer. He's got a Sun-Uranus square, which is hitting Mars. So there's Sun, Mars, Uranus. Now, Sun, Mars, and Uranus, that could be accident. It could be someone who is accident prone. If you have got Uranus on the Sun-Mars midpoint, that is quite dangerous. So I would have said, as a person, he does have to be careful of his own personal safety, assassination, whatever. So he does have to be careful. That's just part of who he is. At the same time, he is involved in big violent events like Russia's invasion of the Ukraine, and I suppose that is reflected there. But the Aries point is about the world at large, and he's got the Sun conjunct the Aries point, he's got Uranus square the Aries point, he's got Mars. Even Mars is pretty close to the Aries point, and Venus is at a 45 degree aspect to it. So here is a person who is very much connected with the world at large. But it's a kind of a shame that we don't have his time of birth, because that would be really useful. Anyway, I'm not going to say anything more about his chart, but I think it's a good chart to look at, because he's such an important person. He is one of the major figures of today's events, and it looks as if he's done a really good job in terms of dealing with the sanctions against Russia, making new friendships, building Russia, perhaps for the future, because it is, as the Russians and the Chinese say, we're moving into a multipolar world. We're starting to see the slow decline of the US, and he's perhaps one of the people who is going to put Russia on its upward trajectory. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say for today, and I will see you tomorrow, which is a Wednesday.